Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just finished watching The Last Voyage of the Demeter, based off of the captain's log of the original Bram Stoker's Dracula story, and directed by the man who gave us scary stories to tell in the dark. Now, when it comes to the Universal monsters, I do agree that there's been an attempt to create a cinematic universe regarding them that ultimately fell flat. But in regards to this movie, it actually happens to work pretty well as a suspenseful horror film. It has its issues here and there, but I definitely think it works well for genre fans as well as those who enjoy their R rated horror films with a bit of a supernatural edge, like Alien on a Boat. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story is basically that the Demeter and its crew are headed back to London from Carpathia, and they happen to take a stop that has them recruit a doctor, Mr. Clemens, who ends up saving the life of the young boy of the ship's captain. But when the doctor, the captain, and the rest of the crew figure out that there's been a woman who's stowed away on the ship, and that one of the boxes contains the infamous vampire inside of it, the crewmates have to figure out how to take this being down and how to survive the trip over to London before the before Dracula shows up and takes them out one by one. Granted, the beginning of the film basically sets up that none of the crew members actually survive, as the ship's captain continuously updates his log and therefore sets up the tone of not only its story but also the story that Bram Stoker told of the original Count Dracula. But surprisingly, I think Dracula himself is one of the weaker aspects of the film. He's not exactly the regal count that you'd think he'd be. He's more of a Nosferatu type, more more a creature of actions more so than of words. He only has like two lines in the film, and his appearance generally looks identical to a lot of the vampires you might see from Van Helsing when it comes down to it. But it is done with practical effects, and at the very least, the design is creepy enough to have a few effective jump scares. Plus, the blood effects, the actual kills of the film, and the bits of personality that we get for the crew members are actually done pretty well. And despite the films letting you know that all the characters involved are going to die, you do get attached to some of the crewmates, especially considering some of them have genuinely good actors like Corey Hawkins, who plays the Doctor, or Liam Cunningham, who plays the Captain. I especially like the Captain's young boy Toby. I think he's actually very well done for a child actor, especially considering he's not exempt from the gore or the scary situations either. Heck, one of Dracula's first kills is to his doggo Huckleberry. So it certainly builds up the tension when it comes to who's going to die and when they're going to die and how they're going to die pretty well. I also saw that this director did a very similar thing in his Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark adaptation. That he does a pretty good job setting up scares and delivering some genuinely creepy designs. But his stories tend to be pretty straightforward, especially for anyone who's familiar with the source material. And anyone who's familiar with Bram Stoker's Dracula knows how the ship goes and knows that none of the people involved actually survive the attack from Count Dracula. But with that in mind, the atmosphere is great, the scares are generally well done, the effects, especially for a movie that has only $37 million of the budget, are quite impressive. And even if the film has a bit of a sequel bait ending, I genuinely enjoyed what I had to see. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. See you next time.